Hello, happy Saturday. It's Dr. Shernay. I did my workout earlier today, so got the fresh gym look. But I did want to come in today and speak a little bit on a post that I've been seeing circulating around on social media. It's I was with numbers. And for a lot of us, we knew exactly what that post was talking about, what it meant. And it was a woman who started it who had dealt with being sexually abused. And so she listed the ages that she had dealt with it. So many of us chimed in. And hey, how are you? Many of us chimed in with our own ages and then referenced who it was that we went through that with. Now, I read some of the comments on the original post, and there were some men that made comments like, y'all are all cap, or there's no way you remember so-and-so and such that happened to you at this age. Well, that is completely false, okay? When you have undergone abuse of that nature, you can recall things that have happened to you from age 3, age 4, and so on and so forth. These are very, very traumatic experiences that have happened, and they stay with you. And there are certain things that you will block out, but there are certain things that you can remember. And you can have a recollection of events that happened to you when you were 3 and 4 years old. And what's more problematic for me, though, is the belief that, because this was primarily women that were responding, so the belief that women are lying. So you can't believe that people are so raggedy and so just out of sorts that they would do this to someone, but you'd rather blame the victim, the person who went through this experience, for having gone through this experience. Make that make sense. Why is it so hard to conceive the thought of someone violating someone else, particularly a child? Because let's be honest, most victims tend to be children and women, and there's elder abuse, and these are the people who are seen as the easiest prey. These are the easiest victim. You have your children, and you have your elderly, and women. And particularly with children, because children, they're innocent. Children are very loving. Children trust very easily. And it's a hard thing to sit here and just see how many children have been violated. And I say children because boys are violated too. And that is something that is often not talked about. I was having a conversation with someone that I know, and he had mentioned experiences that he had at ages 16, 17 with a woman who I believe he said she was 23, 24. Sir, you were touched inappropriately. There is nothing that you can consent to at age 15, 16, 17 years old with someone who is 23, 24. There's nothing you can consent to doing with them. And he was like, no, I was ready. She was doing things that, girls my age weren't doing. Sir, you were violated. And it took us a minute of talking for him to process what I was saying. But you were violated. You were a child being inappropriately touched by an adult. That is a violation. So yes, it happens to men as well, but it disproportionately affects women and disproportionately affects children. And that is what my issue is with some of these comments that I've been reading. It's like it's easier to blame the child, to blame the woman, or to blame the man if it's a man in the case. It's easy to blame everybody except for the perpetrator in this situation. And I don't understand what the thought process is behind that. Again, it goes back to what I was saying in a previous video. Stop protecting predators. This is why so many children don't say anything. So many women don't say anything, especially men do not say anything, because there's so much silencing of the person that this has happened to. And people handle these things different ways. A lot of people tend to internalize this, and it shows up and shows out in other aspects of their lives. And it creates a sense of not being able to function properly. Like, people who are holding on to this kind of stuff, they can't function properly in relationships. They don't have the typical normal interactions with, the gender that did this to them. A lot of times trying to maintain relationships, particularly romantic relationships, is quite challenging because there are so many things that can trigger their previous experiences. There are so many touches and actions and just words that can cause that person to go back to that moment that they were violated, and it's not fair to them. And my heart goes out to those who deal with this. I myself have dealt with this. I have my own story of that I also have had to work through, that I've had to deal with, that I have had to go through therapy and do the things. So I understand completely. It's very damaging to a person, particularly a child. And the earlier, of course, the more damage that it's going to cause, because you're going to see things differently. You're not going to have that all-encompassing just innocence that children typically have, because things have happened to you and you're not understanding why. You're a child, but you're being put in adult situations by people, oftentimes people that are trusting, that you trust, because a lot of the perpetrators are people that are familiar to the child. It's very rarely a random stranger. It's typically someone that the child knows and that the child has grown to trust or has taught that they can trust. And it's very difficult when dealing with that situation, because it happens to you and then you don't know what to do. A lot of times you get scared into being silent. They'll tell you that bad things will happen to you if you tell anyone that this happened, basically to keep themselves from being found out. There's a lot that can go on there. Sometimes the person that you tell doesn't believe you. And that in itself is completely damaging, because here I am, I'm coming to you. I've already been violated by this person that I've trusted, that I've been taught that I could trust, that I've been told that I could trust, that's supposed to be there for me. They harmed me. I tell you, and then you don't believe me. So that is twice that I have been burned by this situation. So how do you think that's going to translate as that person matures and grows and then becomes an adult and having to manage adult situations with other adults when they're still hurting from something someone that they trusted did to them years ago? It's a very challenging, very sensitive thing. And I'm sorry, I meant to put a trigger warning at the very beginning of this video. But these are conversations that need to be had. Children definitely need to be taught how to communicate these things. Stop allowing people to silence them. They need to know that they have safe places and safe people in their lives that they can go to and talk to about anything. I teach my daughter good touch, bad touch. And we talk about it and I ask her questions. And, I'm teaching her that you can come to me and talk to me and tell me anything at all. And so we do have conversations that some of them are past what I feel her age would dictate. However, we're going to have these conversations because I would rather her talk to me and have that trust that she can come to me with anything, as opposed to just being silent and having to deal with things on her own, because that is very damaging, particularly to a young girl. So for all of you out there that have been commenting on that post, I congratulate you for recognizing that you were violated, for recognizing and allowing yourself to admit that these things happen to you. I applaud you for having the courage to say, yes, this has affected me, but I am healing from this. I applaud you for just even identifying with this and knowing that this is not okay, and allowing others to see that they are not alone because you have dealt with it as well. So for all of you commenting on this post, pat yourself on the back. I'm very proud of you. And for those who thankfully none of this has happened to, but if you see someone that you recognize, someone that you know that has commented on this topic, reach out to them. I encourage you. Reach out to them. Ask them how they're doing. Ask them if they're okay. And for those who think that it's a joke, for those who are, oh, this is cap. You don't know what happened. You were too young. You're just making this up. Understand that there are some serious predators out there that do not care about the age of a child, or conversely, an elderly person. They will take advantage. There are people out there that have this evil spirit that they can just do whatever they want to whomever they want, whenever they get ready. Know that these stories are real. These things do happen, have happened. And that people like you who don't believe people are the ones that are perpetuating this behavior. Also know this could happen to your child or someone that you know. So before you go to try to convince the world that people are lying, that this hasn't happened, know that it has. It is happening and will continue to happen as long as you continue protecting the ones who are causing and doing these violations. So I would suggest asking some questions, because I guarantee you that some of the people that you know have been put into these situations, have had to deal with these things, have had to deal with these emotions, have had to go through any or all of these things. Ask around. I encourage you to put your own post and ask some of the people, particularly women in your circle, if anything's ever happened to them. And I guarantee you, you will be surprised at the answers that you come up with, because some people just are that evil. So I want you to imagine your mother, your sister, your favorite cousin, someone close to you, your daughter, someone close to you in that situation, and someone tells them that they're lying when they come to confide in them, to get help from them, to find out why this has happened. Before you try to call someone a liar. I was watching this case. It was very, very sad. It was this little girl, very sweet little girl. She was about 5 years old. And her mother was addicted. And one of the people that she purchased from was the ex of her sister. And he was high. He had come around her, and she had owed him some money. And he was like, either give me my money or you can pay me in other means. She didn't have the money. She offered her daughter, 5 years old. And the baby went missing. So as the story goes on, they discovered that he checked into a hotel. And it's very easy to track, because with hotels you have to present ID and do all the things. So they found him, and on the surveillance camera it had him carrying a little girl into the elevator to go to the hotel room. Five years old. And that was very hard to watch, because number one, you're a grown man with a 5-year-old child. What does a 5-year-old have to offer you as a grown man? And he violated her that night. And he suffocated her. So don't tell me that these things don't happen. They happen quite often and quite frequently. And I'm sorry, y'all. It's just thinking about that story. Because I just don't understand. And as someone who's been there and who's dealt with that, to know that it still continues and it perpetuates now, and the thoughts are still the same, is that people are lying, that these things are made up, this hasn't really happened, is painful. Because what is it going to take for people to finally believe someone when they come forward and say, this has happened to me? And the other question is, what is it going to take to stop blaming the person this happened to for the things that have happened to them? Well, I encourage you, if you are someone who has dealt with this and you have not healed but are ready, or looking to figure out what your next steps are, how you can move on, and how you can still maintain and live a very happy and peaceful and prosperous life, please reach out. Click my link and schedule a consultation. Let's talk, because there is hope. You can get over. You can cross over to the other side. It's very nice over here. These things don't have to keep victimizing you. You can definitely let go of being a victim and become a victor and a survivor. And these will just be things that have happened to you. But just know that because these things happened, that does not define who you are. It does not define what your future will be. So please feel free to reach out. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Saturday, and I will catch you all in the next one.